Welcome to Time Travel Timeline Thursday. This is where we step outside the headlines and look at decision points past, present, and future. The future is not fate. It is shaped by choices, leadership, restraint, and courage. Today, we are asking not just what could happen, but what would create the strongest possible outcome. And we are consulting with a multidimensional privy council for Charles III. I'm Annabelle, a psychic and tarot practitioner for over 35 years. This is something I do every single day for my private clients. And if you would like your own magical privy council or just a bit of direction to get to your own yellow brick road or your best future, please see the links in the description of this video and on my about page, or you can visit my website at fortunecookiestarot.com and sign up for my newsletter where I'll let you know about events like this going on and where you can book a private meeting with me. So we are moving on to the survivor monarchs. So these are ones that weathered the storm, did it beautifully, and kept their kingdoms, monarchies intact. So we'll be right back. Welcome back, my tarot fam. So we are at our final installment of this 3 video series. So in episode 1, we consulted with the ruthless, and in episode 2, we examined the fallen, some monarchs and leaders that didn't have a great ending. But today we're going to turn to the rulers that endured. They're not perfect monarchs. They're not scandal-free monarchs, but they're sovereigns that faced crisis and outlasted it. So a lot of strategy here. These are our survivors. So I hope you guys are loving this series. This is marrying my love of divination and history. I love doing that for you guys. So more and more Time Travel Friday or Time Travel Thursday is turning into it. I time traveled right into another day, turning into, historical context and divination. And if you are here for it, let me know in the chat, because I want to make sure that I serve you all as best as I can. So as a monarch of my own channel. So let's talk a little bit about our first enduring monarch, Elizabeth I. So Elizabeth I, and we talked about her dad in an earlier episode. She was born in 1533, the daughter of Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn, one of the only good things that came out of that marriage. She was declared illegitimate after her mother's execution, but she became queen in 1558. She faced Catholic plots, Ridolfi plot of 1571, the Babington plot of 1586. There's a lot of kerfuffle going on at the time. She ordered the execution of Mary, Queen of Scots in 1587. So no nonsense kind of lady. Defeated the Spanish Armada in 1588. So she was having a couple of years that were pretty great there, a few years that were great. She ruled for 45 years. It was a glorious reign, an unexpected reign, given the beginnings with her father and her mother. Leadership principle: control the narrative, project stability, and never appear uncertain. Elizabeth mastered optics. So I think this is part of the reason why she never really chose a spouse, because how could she do that? That is something that you can't control, like the craziness of your spouse sometimes. Her image was curated, self-curated, and her speeches were deliberate and well-pointed. Her silence was also strategic. Silence sometimes speaks louder than words. We all know that. Advisory themes for her: appear unshakable. Today, 2026, we still think that she was an unshakable monarch. She would probably advise never allow internal division to look like weakness. key for King Charles right now, and to protect the crown's mystique. This, I think, is something that is impossible in a modern scope, but we'll take a look a little bit more. Let time cool. Scandal. Speak rarely, but when you do, speak with authority. So let's see what Elizabeth II has to say about King Charles and his steadfastness. Let's see what that has to say. We're using the Lenormand dice from Arts of Cards. This is a Etsy store that you can go to, Arts of Cards, and you can purchase this Lenormand set for yourself. It comes in German, French, and I think Spanish as well as English. So super duper, really cool set. I love this set. And I love the creator of this set. She's a very, very nice person over there that's running Arts of Cards. So go over there, give him some of your money. Does nothing for me, but go over there, give him some of your money and learn some divination. The booklet that comes with it is fantastic. It also comes with this amazing little box that you can keep. And I did not bring up my card view. There we go. I already rolled those dice. Don't you worry. I'm not going to fake any of you out. So what steadiness must King Charles present? He needs to prove that this accident of birth, this clover, the accident of birth, that he's the right man in the right place, that he is the key to moving that monarchy to the next phase, to the next generation. He also is, she's saying he's failing to see who his closest friends are. Lord Geik, I might be looking at you. That he actually disregarded some help that would have been critical in framing all of the catastrophes that Charles is now dealing with. We have the Savile situation, we have the Harry situation, we also have the Andrew situation, we have the migrant situation. We've got revolving door with prime ministers when he first got in there. Like, you know, there's some madness that's been going on. Not an easy reign. But Queen Elizabeth I says that he disregarded some of the help that was there for him, and that his difficult climb is in full view of the world here. She does advise that he needs to depart from the emotionality that he has, and that sometimes we really do need to make choices as monarchs that are more in alignment with longevity than our own personal interest. And here we have the two ladies being the conflict. And I think this does echo one of our earlier monarchs that says the fall of his reign was happening during the breakdown of his marriage, that this public perception of him not being a good spouse. If you can't be a good spouse, if you can't be a good father, how are you going to be a good leader if you can't keep your own house in order? How do you keep a nation and a commonwealth in line? And I think that is the bulk of her message, that, you know, your own house is not in order. Stop being so emotional about it. Stop playing Pink Floyd to the leeks in your garden at Sandringham. No, keep playing Pink Floyd, because I think that's a good thing. It's one of the most endearing things I have in my personal body of knowledge about King Charles. So up here, the gift of being able to give back to people and his generosity is something that he needs to put further on display. That needs to be seen by people. So that if he is kind to the people, if he is a benefactor king to the subjects of the United Kingdom, they may be able to overlook the bad behavior of Harry and Andrew and Charles's response to it. I'm not saying that the people are going to go, oh, well, we'll just forget about Andrew. We'll forget about all those things that Harry said. But if he is kind to the people, they will understand that those individuals are responsible for their actions and their perceptions and their behaviors, rather than the king is responsible for managing and mitigating the emotions of two adult men. So that's what I have to say about that. You know, the PR for Queen Elizabeth I is a rough climb. This is a fix it moment as far as she's concerned. We got to fix it. So what should be handled quietly and what should be handled publicly? So quietly versus publicly. Andrew, let's look at this. Should Andrew be dealt with quietly or publicly? She's funny. She's like, this is a no-brainer. He should have been ousted. Andrew, quietly, publicly. So love him quietly, wash your hands of him publicly, as far as the justice and what he needs to do, or what needs to be done to rectify the misjudgments. I'm going to say the misjudgments of Andrew. Let's take a look at what needs to be done quietly and publicly for Harry. Quietly, publicly. So quietly, the trauma of losing his mother, of not having that emotional rudder. Now, you can argue with me in the comments that Diana was not the best emotional rudder. I don't think that she was either, but at least she was someone who would have poured some love into Harry, and perhaps the other lessons would have been better. So quietly providing him with a modicum of this love and affection and sweet treatment that Harry really needed, that is appropriate. But publicly, let him go. Let him go. Let him go. I'm not quoting Frozen. He left. Let him leave. What actions would strengthen the unity of the royal family? Two of Pentacles. What actions strengthen the royal family? Two of Pentacles, really creating that inner sanctum, the immediate succession, the sovereign House of Wales. Stop. Those are the ones that sup together. Those are the ones that trust as much as they can. Those are the ones that we inject all of the energy into, all of the leadership qualities. She wants to consolidate the attention that we pay to the family that is moving up. It is not necessary to cultivate and coddle all of these other family members. In the event that we have a catastrophic disaster, everybody's wiped out, the line of succession ends. And that is the calculated risk that Elizabeth I says, that if you put intention into the immediate succession, that it doesn't matter. That must be strong. The backbone must be strong. Looking at you, Princess Anne, with your steel backbone. So transgressions in that kind of framework are going to be few and far between, according to Elizabeth. You are able to manage in the micro anything that could come up in the future. So we're not necessarily looking at like, oh, well, that one's spinning out of control, as we've seen with Prince Harry. So happy family can be put on display, and that display protects them infinitely, and it protects the line. Remember, when we talk about pentacles, we talk about legacy, succession, things that stand the test of time, a castle versus a house of straw. She wants a castle, strong stone, standing there, crumbling for centuries if it is abandoned, not necessarily a house of straw that's going to fall apart at the first heady wind. So she is all for consolidating the family and condensing that attention on the royal family much more. Just out of curiosity, I don't have this in my notes, but what does Queen Elizabeth I think about some of those houses of Europe that have, the great houses of Europe that have consolidated like that? King of Wands, that is a better way of doing things, even though it is not in the rule book. So she's in favor of that. Definitely in favor of that. I like that. So much intrigue around her. You know, she was the queen that wasn't supposed to be. So, so much there. Another queen that wasn't supposed to be, Queen Elizabeth II. So, my favorite monarch, your favorite monarch, lived from 1962 to 2022. I can't believe it's been 4 years since she's passed away, or 3.5. It just seems like yesterday that I was on the phone with one of my attorney clients from my brokerage job, and I glanced over at my other laptop and I saw that the standard was coming down on the flagpole, and I said, oh my goodness, I think the queen passed away. And the two of us scrambled and we spent the next half hour on the phone talking about the monarchy and the changing of the guard. We did that. It was pretty wild. So she became queen in 1952, very, very young, fresh queen, reigned for 70 years. 1992 was her annus horribilis. Charles and Diana separated. Andrew got divorced, and there was that devastating Windsor Castle fire that we all watched. That poor thing, looking at her, looking at the damage the next day with her little kerchief on, was so sad. Just a few years later, 1997, she faced Diana's death and initial public backlash. So most of my viewership is of an age that we all remember this, but for those of you that don't, or those of you that weren't watching, the royal family responded with silence for a few days before jumping into action on Diana's death and making a statement. And the queen did make a statement, to much heaving of a sigh of relief. The sea of flowers outside Buckingham Palace was undeniable. The world was sold out of flowers in the wake of Diana's death. So we have to keep in mind she was still the people's princess then, and we were all watching her, you know, kind of tra-la-la through post-royal life. Still gorgeous, still glorious, still a fashion icon, unlike her second daughter-in-law. But so that was a trial and tribulation that she had to go through, her and Charles. So I do want to see how she advises Charles on all of his annus horribilis. She removed Prince Andrew from royal duties in 2019 through 2022, amid much controversy, which we're now seeing some shakeout from that. And some people are looking at her with a very different view, that she may have been in the know of some things. Rest assured, I've done some readings on this, and I don't think she really knew all the details. I do think that Prince Philip knew much more in regard to Andrew's behavior, because that was discussion that could be had between a father and son. No mother wants to know the gory details of her son's life between the sheets. Dance career, I always say. Is he a good dancer? And that is a euphemism for something else. You girls know what I'm talking about. So Queen Elizabeth II maintained the monarchy through a cultural change. Her leadership principle, endurance is power. She rarely reacted publicly. We rarely saw overt emotions out of her. Sons, Harry and Meghan's wedding, where she had a face like thunder through the whole thing. She waited. She was an excellent chess player in terms of politics and perception. She allowed the institution to absorb shock. So she really was more of a shock absorber kind of queen. Advisory theme is do nothing until it is time to do something. So her intuition there, I think, is huge. Really, figuring out when the best time to deploy the queen in a chess game is really ideal. Stability through routine. Limit public emotional reactions. We've seen that. Me personally, seeing her with Liz Truss the day before she passed away was remarkable now in retrospect. She was in a great deal of pain, was having trouble seeing, was having trouble hearing, was having trouble walking with bone cancer, which is incredibly painful. Yet there she was greeting Liz Truss, the new prime minister, looking fabulous. She looked fabulous. She looked frail, but she looked fabulous. That last image of her was really, I think, she called Prince Philip, her strength and her stay, but she too was the strength and stay of the British nation. So she wanted headlines to exhaust themselves. She would let the blowhards blow hard until they were out of air, and protect the working core of the monarchy, which I do feel some contemporary royal figures and noble figures would be critical of her, leaving them out in the wind to absorb some shocks there. So let's take a look. Let's take a look what she would say to King Charles right now. And is patience the best strategy for him? Oof. Sailing through the slings and arrows is part of the job. You were born into this house. This is part of your job. It's a third of your job is what I'm hearing. A third of your job. Quiet power is in the back room. We don't have to go out there and flex. We don't have to go out there and do all of those things. Rule from the throne room. Keep the curtain closed when you need to. Over here, there are always going to be mice. There are always going to be creepy creeps in any monarchy. They're always going to be there. And cutting off communication that is unnecessary is key. This is clean up your house. This is make sure that you keep your information tight, that messages, no emails, no written communication, say it, forget it, write it, regret it. That's something that Maureen Callahan's quotes from someone else. I can't remember who said it, but I'm going to give it to Maureen Callahan. She can cite the reference on that one. But this is a lot of spoken word, not a lot of written word or traceable word. So over here, the damage is done, and we have to cut off some of the crossroads and the inroads back in. Once gone, there is no inroad back in. And I think that this is very different from what she was advising. I do believe she left a pathway back for Harry and Meghan. Has her opinion changed about that for Charles? They can no longer be trusted. They can no longer be trusted to be a part of the royal family and the royal workings. Counselor of State is coming to mind right now, and she does not want Harry to be Counselor of State. He cannot make decisions in the condition that he's in. That is channeled directly from her. So what must remain unchanged for Charles to round out his reign successfully? What must remain unchanged? Oof. You got to break some eggs to make an omelet. Let's see what this is. Queen of Pentacles. Stop enabling some of the bad players. stop enabling some of the bad players. So I do think if the house is not in order today, be patient, be happy. It will come around. And I hate to say this, the ones that matter for the future will be there and will be cultivated. There are some that don't matter to the future anymore, to this queen. Where does Charles need to be quiet? And where does he need to be loud? Quiet, loud. So he needs to be quiet about his private pain and the disappointment in his brother, in his son, in anyone that has failed him in any capacity. He needs to be quieter about that and quieter about the healing process for that. What he needs to be loud about is the perception that he is not wielding power as given to him by position. He is bending the knee too much to some parties. And she warns that that is catastrophe. And I am getting Keir Starmer, the prime minister, 777s. There's a bit too much kowtowing to the office of prime minister and possibly parliament as well. There's a bit too much. She feels the king is bending his knee too much in the spirit of unity and grace with the political figures. She says, you're above this fray and you need to wield some power over this. So does Elizabeth II think that her son is presenting as a weak king? Yes. Does she think that he has the capacity to be a stronger king? Yes. But he needs to act. Needs to act. So we're going to leave that for now. And we're going to jump across to a more exotic leader, Suleiman the Magnificent. So from 1494, born in 1494 to 1566, he became Sultan of the Ottoman Empire and oversaw the Golden Age. He became Sultan in 1520. He expanded the empire militarily, codified legal reforms, faced palace intrigue over succession, and he ordered the execution of his own son, Mustafa, in 1553 amid succession fears. So, leadership principles: reform quietly while projecting strength. Suleiman balanced public grandeur, legal modernization, and internal power management. So, advisory theme: stability requires adaptation. Maybe not the kind of progressive look that Charles is engaging in, but adaptation, I think, is a really cool word to be using here. Modernize where needed, but appear traditional. So maybe he'll have some words for William as well. Manage succession narrative carefully, maintain authority through law. So where does Suleiman the Magnificent advise Charles to evolve tradition? Queen of Pentacles, Justice in reverse, Knight of Wands, King of Wands. These are our bad players. And Suleiman says, get them out. Get them out. You got plenty of people to work with. Suleiman sounds like Annabelle. What the hell? Get him out. You've got plenty of people in line. You've got good players that are going to work toward the benefit of the royal family and the subjects of the kingdom. So get rid of these individuals. If justice itself does not apply, their bad behaviors do apply. It is destructive. Charles needs to look at, according to Suleiman, the destructive quality of the individuals involved in the royal family. That, I think, is great advice. So, what structural items need to be reinforced? What does Charles need to reinforce as a king? What does he need to reinforce? Six of Wands. Stop worrying about your success. Stop worrying about your personal profile, legacy. It is the legacy of the monarchy that you should be focused on. Nine of Cups. There have been bad kings before. There will be bad kings again. It is not your personal contribution. It's not your personal Q rating that you should be worried about, Chuck. It is how the monarchy continues and endures. His lesson for Charles is that we must endure. Your line must endure. It is not just you. You are just a single dot on that line of history. So, what does he recommend? For Charles' wayward son. So we have movement way off the board, travel. We're going to leave that there. And we also have wise discussions in the future. Those that are siphoning money are the snakes in the grass. These are the ones that are creating conflict and difficulty. If there is one that is asking for riches from the kingdom, they are the ones that need to be ousted. They really aren't being cooperative. If you see a rat, if it smells like a rat, it is a rat. Stop second guessing it. Stop considering that it's going to be something better. The fox is out in the open. You know who is pulling the strings. King Charles, you know your son. Your son is not able to concoct a narrative and a story like this. There is someone pulling the strings. There is an interloper that is interfering with the royal line. That is Suleiman saying, you must be decisive about this. You must pay attention and move away from that as quickly as possible. This is my gift to you, good sir. So curiouser and curiouser. So what about Suleiman's advice in terms of Andrew? Advice for King Charles. Page of Cups. He's your little brother, and he's not going anywhere. There's still going to be a lot of conversations about him, and it's not going to be avoidable. So, the royal imprisonment that I suggested, if you're new to my channel, I had said that I felt Charles removing Andrew from Royal Lodge and parking him in Marsh Farm or the interim housing that he was in. I considered that kind of a royal arrest, that it was a royal imprisonment light, making it easy on him. Does Suleiman think that that was a good decision? Two of Pentacles. No, he should have sent him further away. And allowing him to stay showed a weakness in him. Would it have been better if he had sent him off to some sunny island someplace? Yes. Sending Andrew off to another location, remote, quiet, where, he could just kind of waddle around on the beach. I did say waddle. Would have been much better, giving him a new place to live. I'm getting Canada really strongly, that I guess Canada is going to be like the new exile place. Or Suleiman at least thinks it is. It's cold there. It gets cold in Canada. You got to stay indoors for a while. It gets really, really cold there. So yes, he thinks that a whole new world would have been better for Andrew. So there we go. So get rid of him. So interesting for Suleiman there. So I've got one more here, and this was optional, just because we are the renegade nation over here, the USA. My optional ruler is Sitting Bull. So Sitting Bull was born in 1831, approximately. Again, we don't have an exact date for this, and died in 1890. He was the spiritual and political leader of the Lakota Sioux tribe and led the resistance at the Battle of Little Bighorn in 1876. Eventually surrendered due to survival pressures, and he was killed in 1890 during the arrest attempt. So leadership principles are moral authority can outlive political defeat. He represents leadership that is rooted in identity and spiritual grounding. Advisory themes here: remember what you represent, remember your core values. Charles, head of the Church of England, note here: anchor decisions in core values and protect cultural identity. Charles again, lead from conviction, not fear. So what is his opinion of Charles and this multicultural leadership that we see emerging during his and his mother's reigns? So while maintaining strength and personal identity, it is okay to welcome in other influences and factors, but remember where you came from. Remember what the core values, principles of the subjects remain. Remember that. Don't forget where you came from. Diversion causes conflict. It does bring in good things. It does bring in some interesting things, but diversion causes difficulty that could result in good things, but it could also result in bad things. It also can forge great friendships. So I do think that Sitting Bull says that friendship through cultural blending is great, but we have to have some core values here. The core values are really key. So I do think that Sitting Bull was very fond of Queen Elizabeth II. I think he thought she was right on. And the Commonwealth comes into play here because the Commonwealth was honored for the diversity of culture, not it wasn't honored as a holding of the British Empire. So that diversity of culture and the changes there that Queen Elizabeth enacted, I think he is very, very interested in. Passing down the line, the succession, the information is very key. And Sitting Bull says to Charles, go back to what your mother did and what she taught you. Again, Lord Gyke possibly needs to come back because I think that good advisorship works. And we have the tree with the messenger there. sometimes when we look at a dilemma or a problem or a situation that needs solving in our lives, it's best if we don't bring in all of the side quests that happen in resolving that issue. Sometimes we need to really stay focused on that issue. In a critical matter, like say someone's house is on fire, you want to grab the kids and the pets before you go and grab your Birkin or your Louis Vuitton bag. Like you want to do that. So yeah, you need to focus on the survival of everyone there, not worry about the things that are going to get burned up. And that is something that Sitting Bull says, that the core values, the core things, the movement of that leadership needs to stay pure. And sometimes we have to block out all of the actions and static and noise, to quote Meghan Markle. So that is what he says. Now, how about Charles, as defender of the faith, the head of the Church of England? What does Sitting Bull advise him as that spiritual leader of the kingdom? Two of Wands, chalk and cheese. So King of Wands, Knight of Wands, and the Eight of Swords in reverse. He needs to step to shining a light, uplifting these other cultures that are now in the kingdom, but from the pulpit, from a place of where he is disseminating his own, disseminating? That may not be the right word, where he is presenting all of the religious teachings and the morals that come through the Church of England. That is what he wants him to take a step back from embracing too many cultures and religions and trying to blend them. We can blend communities, we can blend cultures, even languages will blend, but we can't blend morality and spiritual sensibilities. We can't blend them. Sometimes they are in stark contrast. And certainly Sitting Bull says that bit of it. So if you are part of the Church of England and you conduct yourself in the fashion of such, if you follow the 10 Commandments and the good book, if there is another culture that has another way, for example, any of the religions that honor reincarnation, that's not something that is promised in Judeo-Christian teachings. Welcome it, but don't hang your hat up on it because it's going to cause conflict. So step back and say, we honor this. We're curious about it. We want to know more about what you do and what you believe, but we're not going to infuse that into the monarchy or the Church of England. I think that is really, really good advice. Now, let's talk about the moral leadership of his brother. What does Sitting Bull say about the moral leadership of his brother? Knight of Swords, the Empress. Reckless, Seven of Swords, 10 of Pentacles. And this is where I think Sitting Bull looks more at the monarch versus the man, not the monarch, the father, and the man that I've described, but this is the monarch versus the man. And I think he posits to Charles, if you were just a regular man, how would you manage the situation with your brother? How would you treat someone like that? And that would be the measure of how worthy Charles is of his accident of birth. Very, very reflective kind of advice that he's giving Charles. So, what legacy does Sitting Bull think is being shaped right now? What legacy does he see for the British royal family? 5 of Wands, 1 of conflict, and 1 of potentially losing its traction. Potentially losing its traction. I do think that Sitting Bull is warning King Charles that if you don't get your ducks in a row, that there are going to be other houses that rise up and attempt to step into the line of succession. Coming from a very different world, Sitting Bull may be onto something there. Is that a possibility here? Perhaps not. Perhaps the kerfuffle over being the top house, taking over the crown, would result in the end of the royal family with that World card and the Wheel of Fortune. This is a warning sign. Now, since we are talking about Sitting Bull, we're going to let him give Charles one of these medicine cards. What medicine does he bestow upon Charles for better success? Weasel, but it's in reverse, guys. So we're going to take a look. Weasel in reverse, the 33rd card. That number keeps coming up for me lately. So Weasel has an incredible amount of energy and ingenuity. Yet it is a difficult power totem to have. It is not without significance that ermine or weasel pelts are worn by royalty. Weasel ears hear what is being said. This is a great ability. And weasel's eyes see beneath the surface of a situation to know the many ramifications of an event. This too is a rare gift. So weasel also changes color with the season. And weasel confounds the Great Spirit and pickpockets the Great Spirit for treats and wonderful things. So if weasel is your personal medicine when it is in upright, it is telling you to look for the hidden reasons behind anything. Some people are put off by weasel medicine, talent, and abilities, but there are no bad medicines here. We all have power. Weasel power is about your secret gifts used for the good of all. However, we've thrown this in reverse. When it's in the contrary, when it's in the reverse, look out for intrigue. Someone may be using covert tactics to weasel into the hen house. I just said this. Perhaps you should lock your doors and dress your teenager like a nun. Or perhaps you may be lying to yourself about something you know is true. It can be a lie on any level. If you scratch someone else's automobile in a parking lot, leave a note. Don't slink away because you can. Honesty to self and to others is the utmost importance. Another message of reversed weasel is to acknowledge why you have been doubting your feelings. Weasel upright observes all actions, feelings, and situation with keen senses. In the contrary, those abilities of observation are dulled until confusion sets in. When you don't know how to feel or what is occurring around you, doubt becomes the barrier to your progress. Then you may find a bit of paranoia seeping into your life. If you want to right the situation, start by shaking the dullness out of your head and observing the obvious. No one can fool you if you watch your step, honor your knowing, seek the hidden reasons, and use discretion in the process. So this is from Jamie Sams and David, and his name is erased here because David Carson. This is medicine cards. So I guess I'll put a link to this. You can still purchase this. I think you get a soft copy. This is pretty old. I've had this since 1989. So a pretty old deck. You can see there's even some rotted rubber band on there. So exciting energy for King Charles. So I hope you guys really enjoyed this series. I enjoyed it. History shows us 3 paths: force, failure, and endurance. And we covered those in these 3 sessions. The rulers who survived scandal did not always act first. They outlasted it. They understood that the crown is larger than the moment. The crown is larger than the whispering voices around us. Leadership is not about winning every single battle. It's about winning the war. It's about remaining when the dust settles. So the lessons from history are very simple. The crown survives not through emotion, not through reaction, not through public arguments, but through clarity, discipline, patience, and adaptation. And I think that we are seeing that with William. I think William is very keen to adapt and not evolve and be progressive in the way that King Charles is. So if you want to see some past monarchs or these same past monarchs advise William, let me know down in the chat. I'm more than happy to do it. Like I said, Time Travel Thursday is turning into just kind of channeling, which is great. I didn't know that this was going to be my year to get really deep into channeling, but there we go. We're doing some channeling on the channel. So channeling channel. Every dynasty faces fracture. Only some endure. So I hope that on some level, Charles is tapping into his ancestors and tapping into some of these great and sometimes failed leaders to see the light and see where his success is best placed. So thank you so much for going through this series with me. I appreciate each and every one of you. Like I've said time and time again, this is the biggest streaming platform on the planet. I know you have a lot of choices for spiritual guides, history guides, up-to-date news people. So I really appreciate each and every one of you and all the time that you spend here with me. Thank you so much. And let me know what you want to see next on Time Travel Thursdays, because this channel is entirely driven by your comments, your suggestions, your emails. Let me know what you want to see, and I am listening. So thank you so much. And I will see you in the future. Don't forget, tomorrow is Friday and we're going to have lives on Friday. So I will see you guys over there too. All right, bye for now.